Nothing gets you quite as warm and cozy as a nice thick quilt, particularly one that's been handmade. You probably realize that many quilters take great pride in their work, and some of them are even considered works of art that describes the culture and heritage of a region like Gee's Bend. Shayna Strom is here from the Mildred Westervelt Warner Transportation Museum to tell us more. Shayna, thank you so much for being with us today.
I'm happy to be here.
You sent us some lovely images of the display exhibit that's going up, and it's all about the Gee's Bend quilts. Tell us about it.
Yes. Well, the Gee's Bend is located right on the Alabama River. Being a transportation museum director, the Tuscaloosa Transportation Museum tries very hard to celebrate the Black Warrior River, and so we decided to select some artworks that's done by our neighboring riverway.
Now, what are we looking at here on television right now? I'm assuming these are quilts from the exhibit, right?
Yes, these are some of the handmade quilts out of Gee's Bend. Not necessarily the ones that'll be featured in our exhibit, because those are a surprise for when you guys come. But you can see here is Maggie Coates, my assistant, and myself installing two of the quilts at the museum.
Now, they're very, very colorful, but most quilts are. Tell us a little bit about what it is specifically about these quilts that make them special and unique, because if I'm not mistaken, these quilts aren't, it's not just, West Alabama where they're considered to be works. They're known nationally, right?
Yes, these quilts have been featured in museums in Boston, New York, Santa Fe, New Mexico, and in DC. And I think actually a few are going on exhibit in China in an upcoming museum exhibit.
Now, I am a little bit of a noob whenever it comes to quilting art. Whenever I go to look at artistic quilts, what in particular am I looking for? Am I looking for patterns, for colors? Should there be something going on with the stitching? How does all that work?
Well, I think here what you can look at is these quilts came from Gee's Bend, which was a very impoverished part of Alabama that has been through some of the roughest economic, racial, and environmental troubles that Alabama has had to offer in the past 2 centuries. So what you see when you look at these quilts is a survival story of a civilization, of a society that was force-marched from North Carolina down to Selma, Alabama to work on plantations. And so every scrap of cloth that's featured in these quilts were exactly that. They were scraps maybe found on the side of the road or torn up dresses that these great artists, before they even knew that they were artists, were able to sew their family histories into quilts.
Wow. So that's where it comes from. It's people who didn't have much to work with, and despite very adverse circumstances, they made these beautiful, bright, colorful quilts that you would have no idea just by looking at them, the story that's behind each one of them, I suppose.
Right, and they've had a very controversial path to being considered as art. And that's something that we're trying to create a dialogue with in the museum. When we have our audience in, we like to engage them and talk about that.
All right, super. Shayna, thank you so much for being with us today.
I'm happy to be here.
The Gee's Bend quilts go on display at the Mildred Westervelt Warner Transportation Museum on Thursday, August the 2nd. The exhibit opens at 5:30 p.m. You can find out more online at MWWTM.com or by calling 205-343-5390.